Why? You know, so many times people ask you in life, what is your why? Well, I remember while climbing the corporate ladder, interviewing for a job with a director level person, and thinking to myself, man, this guy's got a really nice title, really nice job. That's my why. I want to do that. So I remember him asking me at the end of the interview, where do you see yourself in 5 years and why? And I looked at him and I said, I see myself in your shoes. I see myself as a leader, as someone that's here to teach, to mentor, and to take all of the skills that I've learned in my career and help spread that across an entire team or two or three teams to help grow the overall talent of that team to rise to a higher level. And he kind of looked at me and said, well, that's not what you're going to get. Puzzled, I said, well, as a leader, isn't that what your job is? He goes, yeah, that's a little bit of it. But what you don't realize is I go home stressed every night. I go home wondering if I'm healthy. I go home and I barely get to see my kids. I barely get to spend time with my family. But I love this job, so I do it every day. That's my why, is that I love this job. And puzzled, I looked at him and I said, well, I love what I do too. And he goes, yeah, but if your why is to help people, you're going to drown in your why when you get here. And I was really confused. You see, at that point in time, I really thought my why was to help people by way of being in a corporate job. I thought that my why was to make the world better, leading one team after another, growing to a higher level. But you know what I realized? That's not my why. My why is to make everything better around me constantly. My why is to grow into a better, loving, kinder person so that I can share that joy and that happiness with the world, especially with my family and my children. Because from the moment they were born, I understood what it was like to have a real why. Because my why is time and energy and pursuing things that I love to become greater and helping the world around me and becoming a better father, becoming a more loving and kind person. But that why is so different from the why of going and loving a job and loving a career and loving something else that is someone else's why. So while I thought I wanted to be the leader of a technology team, while I wanted to be the director of a technology team, I was very close at one point in time. But as I was knocking on that footstep of that doorstep of greatness to reaching that goal, I was walking in the footsteps, I was standing at the door, about to pull my hand back. It was all seemingly taken away. And I struggled to remember my why. For so many years after that, I walked away from trying to do what I wanted to do. There was a car accident that removed my capability from doing the job that I thought I was here to do, from the mission that I thought I was here, from the why and the vessel that was going to get me my why. And then I realized that was never my why. It never felt right. The motivation to do it after a few years became dwindled, and putting my feet on the floor every morning was harder and harder each day. Well, I was making a change around the small teams and people around me, and everyone was rising. We were all rising to the top, getting better. The challenge of doing it every day when the why ran out started to become troubling for me. And then when it was all taken away, all of my direction in life was lost, or at least I thought. And then my why started calling me back. It became a beacon of light in what was the darkness inside of what I thought where I was in life. What I remembered that life was happening for me because I was chasing someone else's why. I remember going back to junior high, watching people ride back and forth to work on a train. I too was riding back and forth in a line of cars that might as well have been tin sardine cans taking us to and from the shipping factory. That wasn't my why. My why is inspiring, motivating, and helping people grow out of the past version of themselves into the future version of yourself. As I crawled through the darkest times, I started talking to people that felt like they were in dark times, that I showed, hey, look, where are you going and why? And when they found their why, they found a new version of themselves. And as I started to question that for myself, what is my why and why was it taken away? I realized that my why was nowhere close to where I was before. My why is in the here and now, in the growth that I can have today to become a better version of myself tomorrow. Because as I grow, I become more loving, I'm more kind, a better father, a better family man. As I grow, I become a more kind, open-hearted, loving version of myself that I didn't know existed before. The why, the who, the when may seem so confusing, but it's when you align with the love in your heart and you listen to the gift and the message that's inside trying to get out, you suddenly realize you've been chasing someone else's why. You don't want the fancy things. You want you to be great and allow that voice, that greatness inside, become the truth by which you live your life. Your why isn't a mystery. It's the solution to the problem that you're ignoring in your life. From the greatness that's in your heart, that you're ignoring, that business you want to start, that book you want to write, the YouTube channel that you want to start, the speaking engagements you would like to have, the why that you have in your heart is where you belong, not the why that someone else told you have to have. You know, we think that we have to go to school, go to college, get a good job, start a career, start a family, and everything's going to be perfect. We have never lived in more unsettling times, where there's more separation rate, there's more broken families, there's more broken people struggling, lost, fighting for something that they think they have to have, but they're so miserable chasing that there is no reason to wake up anymore other than to do it because they have to do it for someone else, because they signed a contract with someone else saying that they will now be your why, and that is why you're getting up every day. It's impossible to grow into the version of you that exists without understanding there's a why out there that you're not chasing for yourself. So I'm asking you, why? Why are you doing what you're doing? Your why may not be the reason that you're chasing that job. Your why may not be why you want to be a director or a manager or a senior manager. Your why may be the lessons you've learned in the past compounded into a new version of yourself that you're afraid that has to exist, or you're afraid you have to change into. Because as you change and grow into those new versions of yourself, you're going to find that your why is so much bigger than the what you were working on before, the who that existed before. The why, the who, and where you're going to go and can go does not exist in the same place that the why someone told you you had to have in the past. The butterflies you're feeling about waking up, living a why that you don't want to live, is the reason that you're stopping yourself from getting forward and getting out doing what you need to do. Realize that those butterflies only exist because you're not aligned with the true reason that's in your heart. And when you start taking a path forward and standing on the path that aligns with that and doing the action that you're supposed to do, those butterflies are going to feel like a tailwind pushing you forward. You're going to feel all those butterflies leave your stomach and start flapping, pushing you down the road to your goals, to your dreams, to the version of yourself that exists in the future. Because when you decide to change, you start realizing the why that never made sense before wasn't your why. It was a why that existed for someone else to make them happy. Chase your why, chase your what, and live your when, because where you are today is a product of what you thought you had to have yesterday. So next time someone asks you, what is your why? Don't give a why or a what for someone else to make someone else happy. What is the why that exists in your dreams? That needs to be pulled out, that needs to be grabbed and yanked out of you, kicking and screaming because you're holding it back. You're stopping yourself from living your true why because you're believing in someone else's why that they've had to tell you. Don't stand in a why that exists because it's easy. Stand and live the why that's inside of you because it is you, because it's challenging, because it's difficult to live and achieve the version of yourself that truly exists. You see, you've become so comfortable in living in the why and the version that someone else has told you have to live that you now believe it to be your own. And it's going to be uncomfortable when you break those chains apart. But I promise the moment you say, what is my why? Everything is going to start shifting. And if you allow that shift to become the motivation to turn yourself forward, your why, your true why, and what you're here for, the who you're meant to be, the what you're meant to have, will all suddenly appear, and your path forward will seem like a bright light pulling you through the darkness in a place that you've never been before. Because your why, your who, and your when, and your what cannot be seen when you're living in someone else's house of why, in someone else's place that's defining your why and putting the reason for your feet getting on the floor every morning. When your why aligns with your now, there's a whole different version of you waiting to exist. Let that future you call you out of bed, because that why is why. That's the only why that I need. There's a why out there that's the future me, demanding that I get up every single day. There's a future me that's saying, here's why. Because I exist and you're stepping into my shoes. They're bigger than you've ever seen. They're wider than you've ever seen. That's why. Your why isn't who you were before. Your why is who you're gonna become. That's why. Because your family, the people that you love, they may not see who you can be because they're looking at who you were. Because inside of your head, you've already transformed into a version of yourself that they can't see yet. But that's your why. Stand in that truth. Stand in your why. Change your now and live your future today. Because somewhere out there, there's a version of you saying and screaming, this is why. Because I exist inside of you today. And you're just making one incremental step after another to come closer to me. Because I am why. Thank your future self for calling you forward. And remember to be your future self, thanking the past you for understanding that the now that you are today is why that all happened. Yeah. What is your why? Your why is calling you forward. But are you listening to your why or stuck living someone else's why?